No true country music fan needs to be told just how legendary the pairing of Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn was. They were arguably the greatest duet partners in the history of country music. Before Conway Twitty took his final breath, he left behind a truth that he had held close for decades. It wasn't about fame, fortune, or his music, but about this woman who had sung alongside him for most of his career. For years, fans asked the same question. Were they just duet partners, or was there something deeper? Stick with us as we reveal the truth he shared before he passed away. The duo that rocked country music. Country music was quite popular in the late 1960s. By that time, Conway Twitty had transitioned from singing rock and roll to being a country singer. Loretta Lynn, on the other hand, had already made a name for herself in the industry. Both were stars in their own right, climbing the charts and gaining popularity everywhere they went. Then came the moment that changed both their lives. The moment they met was the moment that eventually led to their partnership. Conway and Loretta didn't meet at a grand award show or a flashy music event. It happened quietly backstage during a country music tour. Loretta was coming off a set when she heard someone behind her say, "You sing like someone who means every word." She turned around to see Conway Twitty, and they exchanged pleasantries. From that very first meeting, there was something different. Loretta once said in an interview that Conway was one of the only men in the industry who treated her like an equal, not like a girl singer or someone who needed help, but as a fellow artist. For Loretta, who had fought her whole life to be respected in a male-dominated industry, that meant everything. They sat and talked for over an hour that day about life in the industry, their careers, deals, and hits. After that day, they kept running into each other. Country music circles are tight, so they often kept meeting each other on tours and at award shows. Every time, that bond grew a little stronger. It wasn't long before the idea of recording a duet came up. Loretta had sung with others before, but none of those songs were a hit. Conway had never done a true duet album, but he was open to it. Conway Twitty began a professional partnership with Loretta Lynn in 1975. They recorded their first duet, After the Fire Is Gone, in 1971. And when the song was released, something shifted in country music. Listeners were used to solo stars, but this was different. This wasn't just two voices on one track. This was a story being told by two people who meant every word they sang. The song trended. It hit #1 on the country charts and won them a Grammy Award for Best Country Vocal Performance by a Duo or Group. Just like that, Conway and Loretta became country music's most unforgettable duo. Their next release was Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man in 1973. The song painted a picture of two lovers determined to be together no matter what stood in their way. Fans couldn't get enough because the track felt so relatable. Then came Feelin's in 1975, a song with tender, slower, and intimate lyrics. The magic the duo created together led them to release over 10 duet albums. Some of their biggest hits as a duo included You're the Reason Our Kids Are Ugly, Lead Me On, I Can't Love You Enough, and Making Believe. They also toured as headliners together, which was rare for a male-female duo at the time. Concerts were packed. For 4 consecutive years, 1972 to 1975, Conway and Loretta were named the Vocal Duo of the Year by the Country Music Association. The Academy of Country Music named them the Best Vocal Duet for 4 years. They were also selected as the Favorite Country Duo for the American Music Awards in 1975, 1976, and 1977. For every year between 1971 and 1981, the fans voted, Music City News readers voted them the #1 duet. The music that Conway and Loretta recorded together was so good that it hooked fans. People began calling them country music's perfect pair. What made them so powerful wasn't just the sound, but the truth in their delivery. Conway never tried to outshine Loretta. In an era when many male artists viewed women as backup singers, he allowed her to take center stage and frequently pushed her into the spotlight. Their friendship deepened as they toured together. Long bus rides, hotel lobbies, and dressing rooms became spaces where they discussed their marriages, frustrations, and dreams. Still, they never crossed the friendship line. At least, that's what they both said. Their connection grew even deeper on stage, and people began to read meaning into their closeness. That is how the rumors started. Fans began to wonder if there was something deeper going on between them. It wasn't long before interviewers began to ask about their relationship, sometimes in a blunt manner. Yet, both of them were married. Conway to his third wife, Dee Henry, and Loretta to her husband, Doolittle Lynn, and both had kids, responsibilities, and reputations to protect. They brushed off the rumors publicly, saying they were just close friends who had a magical connection in the studio. They never confirmed anything beyond friendship, but at the same time, they didn't deny the closeness that existed between them. Loretta would laugh and say, "I've already got a husband to deal with, and Conway's got his own problems." Conway, cool as always, would smile and say, "We just make good music together, that's all the truth anyone needs." However, even those answers couldn't kill the rumors. Every time they dropped another duet, fans speculated more. Songs like "As Soon as I Hang Up the Phone" added fuel to the fire. In that track, Loretta is heard on the phone, breaking down as Conway speaks calmly, ending their fictional relationship. The lyrics were so emotional and raw that they got fans wondering if the artists were acting or living out something real through their music. Despite all the speculation that surrounded them, they continued to make music together and go on tour. Then, something unexpected happened. In the late 1970s, Conway and Loretta decided to take a break from recording together. Rumors picked up again. This time, they weren't just about a possible romance. Some people began whispering that the two had a falling out and that something had come between them. Some even said they had secretly argued over a song, a performance, or a comment made during a tour years back. Nonetheless, neither Conway nor Loretta ever confirmed any of that. This made fans even more concerned, and they continued to ask these questions. What happened to country music's favorite pair? Why had they stopped performing together? Did they have a falling out? It wasn't a falling out. There were no arguments or drama. They simply felt it was time to focus on their solo careers again. However, by that time, people had grown accustomed to seeing them together, so their separation left fans heartbroken and created a void in the country music scene. For a while, they kept their distance professionally, but they still maintained their friendship. Whenever they ran into each other at industry events or award shows, they would greet each other with a warm embrace, like family. The kind of hug that says, "I remember every word we ever sang." Conway continued dominating the charts with songs like "Tight-Fittin' Jeans" and "Don't Call Him a Cowboy." As for Loretta, her tracks like "The Pill" and "Somebody Somewhere" were making hits. Even though they were apart, their influence on each other remained. Loretta would often mention Conway in interviews, and Conway never hesitated to praise Loretta's talent when asked. Conway and Loretta reconnected musically in the mid-1980s for a few reunion projects. They still made a great pair, and their harmonies were just as smooth. But one thing was clear, fans still believed there was more going on between them. However, before we reveal the truth about their relationship, let's take a look at their background and careers. Conway Twitty.
That I loved you, could we slip away where the lights...
Conway Twitty, whose real name is Harold Lloyd Jenkins, was an American singer and songwriter. He was born on the 1st of September, 1933, in Friars Point, Mississippi. The Jenkins family was of Welsh descent. He was named by his great-uncle after his favorite silent movie actor, Harold Lloyd. The Jenkins family moved to Helena, Arkansas, when Jenkins was 10 years old. In Helena, Harold performed on the radio, and he formed his first singing group, the Phillips County Ramblers, at the age of 12. They had their own show on the local radio station every Saturday morning. By the time he was a teenager, he was playing guitar and singing in small clubs. In the 1950s, he shifted into rock and roll under his new stage name, Conway Twitty. How did he come up with this name? Don Seat, Harold's manager, then had indicated that he needed a name with star quality. Harold then adopted the stage name Conway Twitty in 1957. In the Billboard Book of #1 hits, Fred Bronson states that the singer named himself after two towns on a map, Conway, Arkansas, and Twitty, Texas, and chose the name Conway Twitty. Conway himself confirmed this while appearing on The David Letterman Show on March 30th, 1989. His manager, Don Seat, however, said that his girlfriend came up with the name long before Harold used it. Under this name, he recorded hit rock and roll songs like "It's Only Make Believe." Conway wrote the song between sets with drummer Jack Nance when they were in Hamilton, Ontario, playing at the Flamingo Lounge. When the song was released, it shot to #1 on the Billboard Pop Music charts, instantly catapulting Conway into stardom overnight. However, fame in the rock world wasn't what he truly wanted. Conway always wanted to record country music, and in the 1960s, he decided he was going to do just that. He planned to switch to country music and use his original name, Harold Jenkins, for releases, while keeping the name Conway Twitty for his rock and roll songs. He finally made that bold move in 1965. He left behind the wild world of rock and roll and transitioned into country music, but he maintained his stage name. Some people thought he was making a mistake, and disc jockeys on some country music radio stations refused to play his first few country albums because he was known as a rock and roll singer. However, he proved them wrong. He had his first top 5 country hit, "The Image of Me," in July 1968, followed by his first #1 country song, "Next in Line," in November that same year. Hits like Hello Darlin', Linda on My Mind, and I'd Love to Lay You Down also established him as a household name in the country music genre. His voice was smooth and commanding, and people loved his songs. Nonetheless, Conway wasn't just a singer. He was a family man, a father, and a friend. Behind the spotlight, though, Conway carried his own pain. He went through multiple marriages and battled loneliness, even while surrounded by fans. Twitty was married 4 times to 3 different women. His first marriage, to Ellen Matthews, lasted from 1953 to 1954. They had married because Ellen was pregnant with their son, Michael. His second, and longest, marriage was to Temple Mickey Medley. They were married in 1956 and had 3 children, Kathy, Joni Lee, and Jimmy Twitty. The couple divorced in early 1970, but they remarried quietly by the end of 1970. By 1984, after 28 years of marriage on and off, the stress of Twitty's frequent absences took its toll on Mickey Conway, and she divorced again. In 1987, Twitty married his 36-year-old office secretary, Dolores D. Henry, who became his widow in June 1993. Conway had many friends in the music industry, but very few people truly knew him. There was one person who came close and became his music partner, and that person was Loretta Lynn. Let's learn more about her. Loretta Lynn. Loretta Lynn, born Loretta Webb, was an American country music singer and songwriter from Butcher Hollow, Kentucky. She was born on April 14, 1932, as the oldest daughter and second child of Clara Marie and Melvin Theodore, a coal miner and subsistence farmer. Loretta was named after the film star Loretta Young. At 15, she married 21-year-old Oliver Vanetta Lynn Jr., better known as Do. In the late 1950s, Loretta got a guitar and began writing songs and singing in local clubs. The happiness and heartache of her early years of marriage helped to inspire Lynn's songwriting. They were married for almost 50 years until he passed away in 1996 at age 69. Loretta's songs focused on women's issues with themes about philandering husbands and persistent mistresses. Her music was inspired by issues she faced in her marriage. She increased the boundaries in the conservative genre of country music by singing about birth control, repeated childbirth, double standards for men and women, and being widowed by the draft during the Vietnam War. Her lyrics were not the conventional type, and they shook the industry. Some radio stations banned her songs, but the people loved her because she didn't sing like just another celebrity. She sang like a woman living through it all. Loretta was raw, real, and fearless, and she climbed to the top of the industry on her own terms. Her rise to fame was anything but easy. She battled sexism in the industry, criticism from the media, and tension in her marriage. Through it all, she kept going. In a career spanning 6 decades, Lynn recorded album after album. She had numerous hits, including Hey Loretta, The Pill, You Ain't Woman Enough, I'm a Honky Tonk Girl, One's on the Way, Fist City, and Coal Miner's Daughter. Her best-selling 1976 autobiography, Coal Miner's Daughter, was made into an Academy Award-winning film of the same title in 1980, starring Sissy Spacek and Tommy Lee Jones. Lynn received numerous awards and accolades for her groundbreaking contributions to country music, including honors from the Country Music Association and the Academy of Country Music, both as a duet partner and as an individual artist. She was nominated 18 times for a Grammy Award and won 3 times. As of 2022, Lynn was the most awarded female country recording artist and the only female Academy of Country Music Artist of the decade, the 1970s. Loretta toured non-stop throughout her career, and that's how she met Conway Twitty. She didn't expect to find someone in the business who treated her as an equal, but Conway did. He didn't talk over her or try to control the stage, and for a woman used to fighting to be heard, that meant more than she could say. Their duets gave Loretta something special, a space to be both strong and soft. With Conway by her side, she could sing about love in a way that felt safe. She didn't have to pretend. Their harmonies were natural because their connection was real. Remember that Loretta was one of the most awarded women in country music history, but when asked about her proudest moments, she always talked about the songs. More often than not, those songs were the ones she sang with Conway. She called him her singing partner and friend. Even though their lives ran on separate tracks, the music they made together is where those tracks met over and over again. Together, they became the most legendary duet partners in the history of country music. Conway's final years. As the 1990s arrived, Conway Twitty's pace began to slow. For decades, he had lived the life of a rock star, performing night after night, city after city. He had racked up more #1 hits than any other country artist at the time. However, behind the fame, he was battling health challenges. Those close to him noticed the change, but then, Conway still went on tours and concerts all year long. Then came the health scares. In the early 90s, Conway's blood pressure became a serious concern. He suffered dizzy spells and fatigue. Still, he kept touring. Fans came to see him because he was a legend and didn't want to let them down. But his body had other plans. The moment fans had long dreaded finally came. On June 4th, 1993, Twitty became ill. He had been performing in Branson, Missouri, and was on his tour bus, headed back to Nashville for the annual fanfare, which takes place the first week of June. While they were still driving, he began experiencing severe stomach pain. He brushed it off at first, assuming it was something he had eaten, but the pain got worse. A few minutes later, he collapsed on his tour bus and was rushed to the Cox South Hospital in Springfield, Missouri. Doctors diagnosed him with a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm. He was rushed in for an emergency surgery, but in the early hours of the following morning, June 5th, 1993, Conway passed away. He was just 59 years old. However, something unbelievable happened. Fate allowed Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty to reunite once again for his final moments in life. Remember that Conway and Loretta had parted ways to focus on their solo careers, and somehow, fans still expected them to have a reunion. It wasn't a reunion show or a planned meeting that brought Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn together again on the day that Conway Twitty passed. It was pure fate. It so happened that the Cox South Hospital, where Conway was rushed, was the same hospital where Loretta was tending to her husband, Mooney "Dew" Lynn. He was suffering from heart complications and diabetes and was gravely ill himself. Loretta told Ralph Emery in an interview some years later that she couldn't believe it when she saw Conway being rushed into the hospital. She had to alternate between staying with Dee, Conway's wife, and with the band for a while, and then she would run up to see Dew and then run back to sit with Dee. She said that was the worst thing she had been through, and she was in bad shape herself. Here was Loretta Lynn in a hospital in Springfield, Missouri, running up and down the halls, tending to two of the most important men in her life, both of whom were fighting for theirs. After some hours had passed, the chaplain came to Loretta and asked if she wanted to see Conway. She was told that it would possibly be the last time she would be seeing him alive. Loretta then stood up with Dee and went to see him. She sat by his bed, held his hands, and said, "Conway, don't you die on me. You know you love to sing. You're gonna be all right." Dee also talked to him and said, "Conway, you've pulled through harder things than this." Then Loretta Lynn left again to see Doolittle, and right as she entered Doolittle's room, news came to her that Conway had passed. If the story had transpired in Nashville, it may not have been so unbelievable that both Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty would have been in the same hospital in his final moments, or that friends like Loretta may have been called to Conway's side when the worst was feared. However, this was in Springfield, Missouri, and it was completely by chance that Loretta Lynn was there. When the news of Conway's passing broke out, the country music world was shaken. Conway was one of its brightest stars, and now he had passed tragically. Radio stations across America played his biggest hits on repeat, and tributes poured in from all directions. Conway was laid to rest at Sumner Memorial Gardens in Gallatin, Tennessee, in a red granite vault under his birth name, Harold Jenkins. At his funeral, Loretta sat quietly with her family. She didn't speak publicly that day, but those close to her said his demise broke her. Even though they hadn't been singing together at the time, she still felt deeply connected to him. In the weeks that followed, she received condolence messages from fans of their duets. Then, more messages started coming from fans asking if they had ever been more than friends. Some were respectful, others invasive, but Loretta never gave a clear answer. Instead, she said this: "Conway was my singing partner and my friend, and someone I shared most of my career success with. There ain't many like that. That was that." However, fans didn't know that before he left this world, Conway Twitty decided to address the rumors and reveal the truth about his relationship with Loretta. Here's what he said. Conway reveals the truth. The rumors about Loretta Lynn followed Conway like a shadow even till his passing. They had sung together for more than 20 years. Their duets topped the charts, their performances were electric, and their chemistry was undeniable. Fans loved seeing them perform together. To many, Conway and Loretta didn't just make music together, they seemed to have more going on. The way they blended so well when they sang all seemed too real to be just a performance. For decades, people asked the same question: were they more than just duet partners? Remember that they were both married during the height of their careers. Anytime this question came up, they both always gave the same answer to the press: we're just good friends. They were recording and touring partners, and that meant they spent a lot of time on the road together. Long hours on buses, shared hotel lobbies, late-night dinners after shows, and in that space, their bond deepened. As a result, so many people didn't believe it when they said they were just friends. Conway Twitty was known for being private and rarely granting personal interviews. When he did, he steered the conversation back to his music. He avoided drama, hated gossip, and was careful with his words. However, the rumors were getting out of hand, and he needed to take action. Finally, during one of his last interviews before he passed, he was asked again about Loretta Lynn, and this time, Conway didn't dodge the question. He decided to dispel all the rumors. He leaned back, smiled, and said softly, "People have always talked, let them." Then, for the first time, he talked more deeply. He said, "Loretta and I are close, and that's no secret. You can hear it in our music, but people need to understand that there's more than one kind of love. Ours wasn't a relationship. It was a friendship built on music and trust." The interviewer paused, stunned. It was the deepest Conway had ever been revealed. He continued, "She was my music partner on stage and in the studio, but we never crossed any lines. We never needed to. What we had was deeper than that. I respected her too much to ever put her in that kind of position, and she respected me the same way." Conway's words were steady and final. He wasn't angry about the rumors because he understood that people would always talk. He even admitted that the performances sometimes gave the impression that there was something intimate between them. They were performers, and for their music to be relatable, they had to embody it and bring it to life. Conway, however, emphasized one truth above all. He and Loretta didn't have any bonding besides music. They were music partners and friends, and that's all that there was to it. To top it all, Loretta's husband, Oliver Doolittle Lynn, was friends with Conway Twitty, and Conway Twitty's third wife, Dolores D. Henry, adored Loretta Lynn, and so did Conway's second wife, Temple Mickey. The relationship between Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn was always and solely professional. Conway further explained that their connection came from shared experiences in the music industry. They both fought their way to the top of country music. That's why they never crossed the line, because what they had was too important to ruin. Conway also admitted something else that made people understand the bond he shared with Loretta better. He said he loved her, but not in the way people think. He loved her voice, her fire, and the way she spoke about things others shied away from. He loved that she never changed or succumbed despite the pressure she faced in the industry. She was still that same Loretta from Butcher Hollow, even when she was winning Grammys. He paused again and said, "I think the world wanted us to be a love story, but the truth is, we were something different. We were a partnership story and proof that a man and a woman can go into business together without ever crossing that line." His words hit hard because fans had expected something different. Conway wasn't trying to defend anything. He was just telling the truth about something he had waited years to say out loud. After the interview aired, fans had mixed reactions. Some were surprised, some were disappointed, while others respected him for his words. At that point, most people had finally realized that their bond didn't need labels to be powerful. After Conway's demise, the rumors finally began to settle. People started to understand that they had misunderstood them and that what they had wasn't some secret affair. It was a music partnership that didn't even need an explanation in the first place. So in the end, Conway Twitty didn't break his silence to shock anyone. He just revealed the truth to set the record straight, to honor what they truly shared, and to give Loretta and perhaps himself a little break from all the rumors before it was too late. Their story wasn't about scandal, but rather about two artists who discovered that they made great music together. That's the truth Conway left behind, and for those who listened, it was more than enough. That's why country music is more than just songs, artists, and albums. It's the stories, the friendships, the love, and the heartbreak that color the moments in between that make it more than just music. If this story moved you, drop a comment below and tell us your favorite Conway and Loretta duet. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more. Before you go, click the next video on your screen.